You're watching World News on TVP World. I'm Aaron Darman. The Vatican has extended the hours during which worshippers can come say their final goodbyes to Pope Francis as thousands flock to Rome. Our correspondent Alex Cardier is in the Italian capital and sent us this report.
Well, as you can see, tens of thousands of people are still streaming into the Vatican to pay their respects to Pope Francis. The Vatican estimates that in the first 24 hours after they opened St. Peter's Basilica to the public to pay their respects and see the late Pope, 50,000 people have come in to see him. Now, that is just in the first 24 hours. The demand has been such that the Vatican actually extended the hours during which people could go pay their respects and say their last farewell. The Basilica was supposed to close at midnight. They extended that until 5:30 in the morning, reopening it just an hour and a half later for people in the morning, in the early morning, to be able to say their last farewell. That will continue on until the end of Friday before his coffin will finally be sealed. Still, as you can see behind me, tens of thousands from all over the world coming here for their last goodbye. We've spoken to some of them, many very moved by Francis's papacy, by the reforms he put forward, some critical, of course, of his position on Ukraine and other issues, but he is remembered certainly for being a reformer, for being a progressive pope. Many I've spoken to here want the church to continue in that direction. Of course, we will see in the next few weeks whether or not that happens. First, people from all over the world here to pay their respects to Pope Francis with his funeral on Saturday. Alex Cardier, TVP World, the Vatican.
The Russian army launched a massive combined strike on Kyiv overnight, killing at least 8 people and sparking fires throughout the capital, according to Ukrainian officials. Our correspondent Oz Kataji has more.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has cut short his visit to South Africa following Russia's early morning attacks on the Ukrainian capital of Kyiv. 8 people have been killed and more than 70 injured in these Russian attacks that targeted various places across the city, the worst being Sviatoshinsky district. Now, we were there earlier and met Mayor Klitschko, Vitaly Klitschko, who spoke exclusively with TVP World to see if he had a message to send to the Trump administration following these attacks. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
The United States is critically important. The support of the United States is very important to bring the peace back to Ukraine. Russians never understand weak position. We have to be strong. We have to be united. Together we are time stronger, and that's why Ukraine needs support of the United States to bring the peace back to our homeland. But this peace, we have to make pressure to the Russia. Russians understand just the power. That's why we have to be strong. And together with the United States, Ukraine will be time stronger.
So as to whether there will be any pressure put on Moscow, President Trump sent an early morning statement in response to the attacks on Kyiv. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
I am not happy with the Russian strikes on Kyiv. Not necessary and very bad timing. Vladimir, stop. 5,000 soldiers a week are dying. Let's get the peace deal done.
So while these talks continue between US officials and Russia, the one thing on the ground that is for certain is Ukrainian civilians are continuing to die under Russian bombardment. It's Oz Kataji reporting from Kyiv for TVP World.
And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy says more than 200 aerial targets were launched at Ukraine in Russia's missile attack on Kyiv. And as our correspondent mentioned there, during a press conference with his South African counterpart Cyril Ramaphosa, Zelenskyy also announced that he would cut his visit to the country short due to last night's attack.
We are fighting against Russian occupation, against the humiliation of our people, and against all forms of violence directed at Ukraine and Ukrainians. This morning, our country suffered yet another large-scale Russian attack. Over 200 missiles, ballistic missiles, and drones were launched. Sadly, the attack has caused destruction and casualties in the capital and other cities. Across all regions, more than 80 people were injured. Tragically, there are fatalities: a brother and sister. The young man was 21, the young woman was 19. I express my sincere condolences to the families of those who lost their lives. As I speak these words, rescue operations are still ongoing. Because of this Russian attack, I have decided to shorten my visit to South Africa. At the same time, our foreign minister will remain here to show our respect and ensure all planned meetings are held.
Putin needs to finally stop lying. That's the direct message from French President Emmanuel Macron in reference to peace talks between Ukraine, Russia and the United States. The French leader also underscored that Russia is the aggressor in the conflict, while expressing his hope for a peace deal between the nations.
France's position is constant and will not change. We are for the sovereignty of peoples, territorial integrity, and respect for international law. For France, there is no double standard. This applies to Ukraine, the Middle East, the Far East, and the African continent. I'm honoring this position. This is why we will continue to support the Ukrainian people's right to live in peace on their territory within its internationally recognized borders. This is why we have always condemned Russia's war of aggression. We're in a moment when I hope peace can be built, and I would like to recognize the diplomatic efforts made by the United States. But I want to recall the facts. There is one aggressor, Russia, and one victim, Ukraine. I want to recall the facts. A few weeks ago, under the American initiative, President Zelenskyy made an incredible move. He agreed to an unconditional ceasefire. I repeated this to President Trump, whom I spoke with 2 days ago. The only thing is for President Putin to finally stop lying. When President Putin speaks to American negotiators, he tells them, "I want peace." When he speaks to the entire planet, he says, "I want peace." Yet he continues to bomb Ukraine. He continues to kill in Ukraine.
Est-ce que le président Poutine est d'accord pour un cessez-le-feu inconditionnel?
The European Commission will soon present a roadmap on how it intends to phase out all imports of Russian fossil fuels. President Ursula von der Leyen announced the plan will be revealed in the next fortnight. Our EU correspondent Angela Scoogens has been following this story and joins me now from Brussels. Good afternoon, Angela. What more can you tell us?
Yes, so European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen made the announcement in London at an energy security conference. She said that her Energy Commissioner, Dan Jorgensen, will unveil the bones of that plan in the next 2 weeks, and it comes off the back of other reporting, particularly from Reuters and Politico, that this deal revealed on the 7th of May would potentially forbid any European country from accessing Russian fossil fuels. But this goal was previously announced by the European Commission in 2022 after Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine. The Commission said that they want to phase out these fossil fuels from Russia by 2027. This is good news for the US, which has showed signs that it wants to sell a significant amount of LNG, in particular to the EU. This would be a warm spot in this transatlantic trade war, an opportunity for Washington and Brussels to come together and find some harmony on an issue. But in the backdrop to this energy announcement, we know that Ursula von der Leyen will speak to UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer about security and defence, with that leader from Britain expecting to lobby the Commission President to allow Britain to be a beneficiary of the €150 billion loan package as part of SAFE. The devil will be in the detail and whether the EU and Britain can ink a security and defence pact, which could be laid bare at the first EU-UK summit scheduled for the 19th of May. But that's all from me. I'll send it back to you, Aaron.
That's Angela Scoogens, our EU correspondent in Brussels. Thank you. Poland has begun exhuming the remains of Poles killed by Ukrainian nationalists during World War II in Puszniki, a former Polish village now in Ukraine. Permission to begin the exhumation process has been a long-standing demand of Warsaw, and the agreement reached with Kyiv back in November 2024 was seen as a positive step forward in Polish-Ukrainian relations. Over 100,000 Poles were reportedly killed in western Ukraine between 1943 and 1945. Poland calls these executions a genocide, an interpretation that Ukraine disputes. Around 20 specialists and 50 scientists are working to identify and then bury the victims. Despite past tensions, Poland remains a key supporter of Ukraine amid Russia's full-scale invasion, and Polish officials are calling on Ukraine to allow further exploration of this type. And that's all for World News here on TVP World. Do stay with us. We'll have another update in just under an hour's time. I'm Aaron Darman. Goodbye for now.